roots of negatives. Let's start by defining what the square root of -1 is. We write it as I. So therefore, I squared would be the square root of -1 squared. Since the square root of a square means we just get whatever's inside, or -1. So now we can calculate any of the roots that have negatives inside. This will now be written as the square root of -1 times 5 squared, which then becomes 5i. Expressions with radicals. We always simplify the radical first. So let's look at example 1. Here's example 1. It is -45. Let's start by first factoring this out. I would have a -1 and a 45, a 5 and a 9, and a 3 and a 3. This means that it can be rewritten as -1 times 3 squared times 5. Remember that a -1 comes out as an I, 3 squared comes out as a 3, and the 5 would stay inside. This means that the square root of -45 is actually 3i square root 5. Let's look at another example. Here's example 2. In this example, we first want to simplify the radical, and then we will worry about multiplying them together. So, in this first one, we have I square root 6, because remember that -6 can be broken up into -1 and 6, the -1 coming out as an I. This will then be multiplied by the other one, which is -1 times 10, or I root 10. Now we can multiply them together by multiplying the outsides, making it I squared, and multiplying the insides, making it 60. We now need to simplify the square root of 60. And we also need to simplify the outside, or the I squared. Remember that I squared equals -1. So we actually have -1 square root 60. Remember, 60 breaks down into 4 and 15. We know the square root of 4 is 2, so now we have -2 square root 15, which can be simplified no further. Remember, when finding square roots of negatives, that the square root of -1 is I, and that I squared is -1. Also make sure to simplify the radical before you start multiplying them together, as shown in example 2.